Hello, this is Tim Hellman.
And I'm Jake Tenpass.
And this is Movie Talk. Today we're going to review the movie Blade Runner 2049.
Or Blade Runner 2049, depending on how you pronounce it.
It's a sequel to the 1982 neo-noir sci-fi classic, which was based on the short story Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick.
What?
The film takes place 30 years after the original, and it revolves around a new Blade Runner who discovers a long-hidden secret. He must seek out a retired Blade Runner, Harrison Ford reprising his role from the original film. This new chapter stars Ryan Gosling, Harrison Ford, Anna de Armas, Sylvia Hoeks, Robin Wright, and Jared Leto. Sean Young and Edward James Olmos also have cameos in the movie. It was directed by Denis Villeneuve. It's received rave reviews from critics, unlike the original when it was first released. And it was expected to be a big hit at the box office, but that hasn't turned out the way they were planning.
No. You know, I feel like critics, though, could not wait to rave about this movie.
Oh, yeah, because they missed the boat on the first time.
Exactly.
It's one of those times that they're really regretting they didn't see that as the classic that this became.
Yep, no, exactly. They were like, I am not getting this one wrong. One of the first things I'll say about this movie is, like, I feel like the first Blade Runner is this amazing exercise in economy. Like, no information feels like it's given twice. You have to pay attention to every bit of dialogue, every detail, every nuance. I'm less talking about the original cut because obviously there's the director's cut and the final cut and so on and so forth. But you really have to pay attention to those movies. Mm-hmm. And there's something about Blade Runner that also can sometimes be difficult to pay attention to because the cinematography is gorgeous. The music is like super loud and synthesizer-y and burbling, and it's just easy to drift away into a dreamscape and just sort of like go, and like watch the visuals, but you can't. You have to really listen to what the characters are saying to each other or you're gonna miss a lot. You're trying to market this movie that cost $150 million or whatever to make to the average person, and it's the kind of movie that both moves at a very glacial pace whilst also being these giant, dreamy photography, and that's not for the average person.
No, it doesn't seem like a blockbuster at all.
The first one arguably has more like big action scenes, and I will say that much like its predecessor, there's a lot to unpack in it. There's a lot to think about. If you are willing to invest the time in it, the movie has all kinds of things to say about what it means to be a human being, how you continue to define how much of a human you are despite of how you think of yourself. And you know, when you listen to Jared Leto's character in the movie talk about how all the major advancements of the human civilization have been built off the backs of slaves, it's hard not to be like, that's unflinchingly true and disturbing. And how do we continue to justify our global empires of technology, whether you're talking about Apple or Nike or whoever, who create these products that are bought by rich people and made by a ton of poor people living in really horrible conditions.
Mm-hmm. I saw a parallel between it and veganism.
That's so surprising to me.
Because they're not people and they're kind of looked down on because of that, but they're alive still, and they have feelings and are similar to us and everything.
And can sometimes exhibit traits that are more human than human,
yeah.
Like they say in the movie. I can certainly see that, Tim. And ultimately, the humanity of the movie is demonstrated by Ryan Gosling, and some people think of Ryan Gosling as being a bit of like a wooden actor or an actor who doesn't have a ton of range. I've definitely heard that opinion expressed before. To me, one of the things that makes him so believable is that he doesn't overact. He plays parts very stoically, and yeah, he's always kind of Ryan Gosling. But there's something about the limitations of the way he acts and the control that he exhibits that makes it very believable to me.
He never says a lot usually.
But he seems entirely human. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And speaking of human, I think Harrison Ford seemed more human in this than in anything that I have seen him in probably 30 years.
30 years?
I don't know. I mean, old Harrison Ford does not exhibit the animation of young Harrison Ford. If you go back and watch the Indiana Jones movies, or you go back and watch Empire Strikes Back, he was like a big performer. He both had great physicality to him, but just the expressions on his face and his deliveries of lines were really dynamic. And I definitely feel like he's gotten to be a little bit more of a flat line as he's gotten older. Yeah. But I feel like Denis Villeneuve figured a way to push him out of his comfort zone. I just thought this was the best performance Harrison Ford's given in a really long time.
And I also thought the movie definitely picked up when he came in into it.
Well, Ryan Reynolds was almost alone for the first part of the movie, and once he enters, there's like another three-dimensional human character in it. Because a lot of the other characters in the first half of the movie, I mean, either they're episodic in the nature of their entrance and exit of the movie, so that you only get to see them for a little chunk of time, and they don't have a chance to grow into something else, or they're like Robin Wright Penn, where they're just kind of playing an archetype.
So I'd give it 4.5.
And I'd give it 4 stars out of 5. It felt like the kind of movie you have to see twice to really form an opinion about.
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack there, and it has so much in way of expectation after the first one. I almost don't feel like I'll really be able to calibrate that until I see it again and can like see it as its own beast. But I think Denis Villeneuve is a masterful practitioner of the scientific arts. I hope that the poor box office on this doesn't affect him doing the Dune reboot. I am so hopeful for that, and I think he would do an amazing Dune reboot. But Dune's another property that people have wanted to make money off for a long time and haven't been able to figure out a way to. I thought this movie was really good, but I also didn't walk out of it feeling like I had been blown away. But I'm open to being blown away from it the second time I watch it. We'll see.